Welcome to Arts News, friends. I'm Jimmy Ray here with you every Friday morning, 10 a.m. to talk about people, places, and things to do in the arts world of the Ozarks. This week we chat with Kyle Wiley-Pickett as the Springfield Symphony Orchestra winds down their season. Also, we take a look at youth filmmaking in the Ozarks with Plotline and remembering an Ozarks icon. That and more coming up. And support for today's program is provided by the Moxie Cinema, currently presenting I Love Boosters, Steal This Story, Please, Dust to Malibu, and Tetsuo, the Iron Man. Showtimes and ticket information at moxiecinema.com. And support is also provided by Pickwick Underground Framing, offering custom picture framing and installation. Open weekdays 10 to 5:30 and Saturdays by appointment at 611 South Pickwick Avenue. Information at pickwickundergroundframing.com. I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU. A special guest with me here in the Arts News studio, Executive Director and founder of Plotline, which helps kids and youths embrace the art of filmmaking. It's Jim Boltus. Welcome, friend.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. It's great to be here.
You know, film in this area has really expanded a lot. And thanks to you, a lot of the kids around here are starting to get a feel for this. Now, Plotline, where did it all start? You founded it. When was this? Why was this? Give us the rundown just on the history.
Yeah, so my deeper background is actually music. So, I've been a performing musician for many, many years. I was teaching also private lessons. So I got the idea one day when one of my students came in with an iPhone. They took it out of their pocket to put their guitar on their leg. And I thought, I wonder if I could teach people how to make, movies with these things with stories that rather than your friend falling down a staircase and looping it. So from then I started a class for that in 2016 at the school I was teaching at. I loved it. It was a great fun. I learned as much from the students as they learned from me. We had our first annual showcase that year, and then after that I decided a nonprofit is the way to go. And I researched it, talked to everybody I knew for a year until we finally started in 2017.
2017. And all this was happening here in Springfield?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the music. I'm surprised we hadn't met. What kind of music did you do?
I played guitar and bass.
Yeah.
So I grew up here, moved to LA to go to music school, went to Musicians Institute, stayed out there for about 8 years, moved back here in 2002. Just did a lot of cover stuff, played a lot of musicals because I could read, so I played in a lot of orchestra pits. I played like 30 runs of musicals.
Yeah, wow.
And so just had a lot of fun just doing this and that.
Yeah. So when we talk about this mission of Plotline and it being a nonprofit and all that, what type of activities? We know that we have a big event coming up on May 30th. We'll talk about that here in a bit, a student film showcase. But give us a rundown of just kind of what these classes, what these courses, what does it look like when these kids come into your orbit? I mean, are they getting right away hands-on stuff? Are they learning more technical stuff? I mean, what's it look like when these kids are working with you?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, I think filmmakers are makers, and it is important now more than ever that you're versatile, that you can do all manner of things, that you're educated in all manner of things, that you can fill in wherever there's the gap, or just do it all yourself.
Yep.
We have the ability and the technology nowadays that people can and do that. So I'm very much a believer of hands-on. So we have weekly classes that go for a semester long. We have shorter run programs where we actually go into Springfield Public Schools to like their 5th grade classes and work with them for a week.
Nice.
We have after school programs at certain middle schools. Then we have our summer camps, and we also have workshops for adults. So we have all sorts, we're kind of hitting different ages for different lengths of time. But every story is about solving a problem. And so we are creative problem solvers. Really, very close to my heart is original storytelling.
Yeah.
So we don't do any spoofs or remakes or anything like that. I'm really a deep believer that we want to foster and continue that art form in our storytelling because the technology is changing all the time. What is a camera nowadays? It used to be really large, used to be film. Now it's digital. Now it's a phone sometimes. And that always is sort of a moving target about training people on specific pieces of equipment. But the overall idea of how a camera captures someone, how light works, how sound works, and then creating an engaging, fun story with your friends and colleagues in the classes. So we are teaching them screenwriting, we're teaching them video editing, camera operation, the basics of directing, and certainly acting. Almost all our students want to get on camera at some point.
Sure.
So we're like, it's your turn on camera. Okay, now you're on boom. And now we switch
That's
room.
great. Yeah, that's really great. Everybody gets a little bit of taste of everything and see where they might shine. And of course, storytelling, story writing is really at the foundation of most art forms, right? I mean, it all starts with that great story, and then what happens after that is a whole other craft. But are you finding that these kids, young adults, are they falling into certain roles more easily, or once they've kind of made the rounds and did that, do you start finding the strengths and start leaning into that, or how does that work?
Yes, lean into their strengths, but also their weaknesses. Yeah, because sometimes they gravitate to one thing and they just want to do that all the time. Or they just want to do it more frequently than other things. But going back to that, you got to be versatile. Now more than ever, be versatile. Even though you might just want to be on camera the whole time, you've got to be able to fill in the gaps in case you're working on a production and they're like, our boom operator is not here today. Like, can anybody, I got it.
Yeah.
I got you covered.
Right.
Or can anybody be the assistant camera here today? Well, yeah, sure. I did that a little bit.
Yeah, that'll keep you working.
Yeah, keep you working. Yeah, keep you working.
When it comes to film in this area, what have you seen change since it started? I know I've talked with a lot of cats since getting in this role a couple of years ago, and I didn't really know how fertile it was around here, and especially over the past few years. So what kind of changes have you seen in the film industry around the Ozarks?
There's a lot of productions that are coming through a lot more than there used to be. Some feature big productions, some shows, utilizing the Ozarks in different ways. And, we recently got our tax credit back.
Right.
That entices people to come back to Missouri, because that was the thing. Like, the TV show Ozarks was shot in Alabama. So trying to get people to embrace the scenic beauty that we have all around us, but also the expertise, the local talent that people are ready to step in and fill in those gaps and those roles that they need.
Yeah. I was talking with Shelley Gibson about Dust to Malibu, and it was shot pretty much entirely here besides a few out west. But yeah, and talking with the Film Foundry and all the great work that they've been doing with the tax credits and the incentives like you were talking about. It makes it nice because it brings those opportunities here. Folks don't necessarily have to be in LA anymore. They don't have to be in New York. Now, sure, those geographical advantages might exist, but they're not necessary. And I think what you're doing here is very helpful for young filmmakers and folks who want to tell stories. Talking with Jim Boltus, he's the founder and executive director of Plotline. And Plotline gives filmmaking really to anybody who wants to experience it, and all the different roles that it takes. I mean, there's a lot of different hats to be worn, isn't there, Jim? Let's talk a little bit about the film showcase coming up on May 30th. So that's next Saturday. the last Saturday of the month, May 30th, down at the Fox Theater. You're doing a film showcase, and it's the 11th annual. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the crown jewel of our of our thing.
A big payoff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I did my very first class, I knew I wanted to have this carrot at the end of the class. Like, we're going to do this thing. We're going to work hard. We're going to work together. We're going to collaborate. We're going to make it happen. And then we're going to put it up on the big screen.
It's got a deadline there, too, which always helps.
Yes. And it's also like, is this good enough to show, on the big screen to your friends, your family, the community? So yeah, we're going to be at the Fox Theater again for the second time. We have the whole place to ourselves. We're going to have concessions, food and drink and everything like that. We got our red carpet for photographs. So we encourage our student filmmakers to dress up or dress as they like, to have their photo taken. We have 2 big awards that we give out to our 2 best filmmakers of the year. One that's sponsored by MSU for the communications department.
Yes.
And then another one by the Hatch Foundation. And it's just such a deep joy. I not only am the executive director, but I'm teaching all the programs with an assistant. So this is very near and dear to my heart.
Right.
And all these kids I've worked with for many, many, many hours over the year. And what they come up with is just makes your jaw drop sometimes, because it can be about anything, and it's just so much fun, the making of it, but then the end result, and to see a whole program of those back to back is just a blast.
So how many films are normally in a night, or this one coming up at least?
It'd be 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are short films, so on average 5 to 10 minutes. So it's going to be about an hour 20 minutes.
I assume that you probably have some of the same students year after year.
That's right.
And so you're starting to see them grow like this and kind of come into themselves, coming of age. What's that mean to you whenever you get to see that and you get to see these final products and these friendships being made? What does that mean to you?
Your audience can't see me smiling ear to ear, but it's a real joy. I'm a dad as well. Just seeing these young kids come into our program and who get a knack for it and get the bug for it, and then come back semester after semester, and seeing them until they finally age out after 17 of our program. If they go on to pursue film or creative media or creative job in the future, that's great. But more than anything else, I want them to be able to creatively problem solve their lives.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what the future brings. I want them to be able to just roll with it and make lemonade out of all the lemons that gets thrown their way.
I really like that. I think that's a great mission. Talking with Jim Boltus from Plotline, and they're gearing up for their 11th annual Student Film Showcase on May 30th. Over at the Fox Theater. What about information? I'm sure socials, websites. Let's give them the links here so folks can check it out if they want to hear more about it.
Yes, plotlinefilm.org. That's our website. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Plotline Film. And the show starts at 5 o'clock. Doors open at 4:30. But if they go to our website, they'll also see that we are enrolling now for our fall semester.
Very good.
And we have a class for Intro to Filmmaking, which is ages 10 to 13, and then Film Production, which is ages 13 to 17.
Okay.
Then we're also going to be doing some workshops coming up with the Film Foundry. I don't have the dates yet, but like to partner with those guys and help them out and help out the professional filmmakers and aspiring adult professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. It's Plotline and Jim Boltus. Thanks so much for dropping in and shedding light on this. And folks can learn more one more time at the website.
Plotlinefilm.org.
All right. Thanks for all the good work, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jimmy.
I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU. Support for Arts News today is provided by Dressler Peters Business Law Firm, committed to promoting music and the arts in the Ozarks by supporting local public radio, including KSMU's weekly arts newsletter, The Green Room. Information at DresslerPeters.com. I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News here on KSW, and the Springfield Symphony Orchestra has concluded their 91st season, and they did that with a ballet in collaboration with the St. Louis Ballet Company. It was Cinderella on May 9th. We have some cuts from that concert, as well as a special guest, conductor and musical director Kyle Wiley Pickett. Welcome back.
Yeah, good morning.
So, do you guys do a ballet every year?
Yeah, so this has been one of the things I've been most excited to be able to bring to the Springfield Symphony. We have been collaborating. This is, I guess, our 4th year in a row of collaborating with the St. Louis Ballet Company. And it started with Swan Lake 4 years ago. Actually, it started a little before that. We had a holiday concert 5 years ago. And, for the holiday concerts, I'm always trying to do something a little different.
Sure.
And so I wanted to feature a couple professional ballet dancers in some of the Nutcracker at our Christmas concert. And I was having trouble finding dancers. I had friends in different ballet companies, and someone said, hey, reach out to the St. Louis Ballet. They're great, and their artistic director's great. And so I reached out, and he said, yeah, I've got 2 dancers I can send down. They came down and danced. They were great. Everybody loved it. They were so appreciative. They said, so great to dance to a full orchestra. We don't get to do that very often. Because, ballet companies, the expense of the orchestra is just gigantic. I mean, for big ballet companies, they probably pay the orchestra more than they pay the dancers.
Right.
And so they don't dance with full orchestra very often. And so planning the next year, I called up Gen Horiyuchi, who's their artistic director, and I said, I'd be really interested in having you come down to Springfield, and kind of hoping that your company would do Swan Lake with us. And it would be a fully danced performance, but we would call it an in-concert. So the orchestra's on stage, so we're not in the pit. So orchestra's on stage, and instead of a set, you have the orchestra, but then you dance the whole ballet. And he said, that sounds great. He said, let me call you back. And he called me back and he said, how about this? We'll come down to Springfield, but you come up to St. Louis and play our run. And yeah, Swan Lake's great. We were already thinking we were going to do that. And so that started our collaboration. And so we went to St. Louis. We played their production of Swan Lake up there. They came down to Springfield, danced it here. We've done 3. We did Swan Lake, then we did Sleeping Beauty, then we did kind of a cool pops that was Gershwin and American music, Rodgers and Hammerstein last year, and then this year Prokofiev's Cinderella. And this has sold out every time we've done it in Springfield. And I have to admit, that was a little bit of a surprise for me. I didn't know that what people in Springfield were dying for was some professional ballet to come in. I was not a ballet person. That was never kind of my thing. But I have to say, I love it, and I love working with this company. They are absolutely spectacular, and it's one of the highlights of the year for us.
Yeah, excellent. Well, just had new executive director Kyler Dibbett in from the Springfield Ballet.
Yeah.
They're going on 50 years.
Yeah.
Doing, and their runs, their productions are stretching into 6, 7, 8 days now that it's so popular.
Which is fantastic.
I guess ballet is hot to trot here in town, which is good.
Absolutely. And they do such a great job. They're a teaching school.
Yeah.
They do such a good job. And so, I like to think and hope that what we do is inspiring for the young ballet dancers, and they get to see professionals.
Absolutely, and a chance to see what they could be working towards.
Yeah.
So looking back at this May 9th production of Cinderella, you mentioned a name. What was that?
Prokofiev.
Now, is that the choreographer?
Prokofiev is the composer.
Composer, okay.
Yeah. And so Prokofiev is the composer. He wrote Peter and the Wolf.
Okay, and this is not affiliated necessarily with the Disney production.
Nope, totally different.
The same story?
Same story.
But different music?
Same story, different music. And Prokofiev wrote, he's probably most famous for Peter and the Wolf. And then after that, probably it's his Romeo and Juliet ballet, which is very famous.
So he takes these stories and puts music to them.
That's right. And then this one is Cinderella, and it's great. Oh, it's so magical, and the music is fantastic.
So when did he do all these adaptations?
So this was 1941.
Okay.
So, rough time in the world. Certainly a rough time for Russia, for Western Europe. But composers kept composing, performers kept performing, during World War II. It's a 20th century ballet. Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, those are Tchaikovsky ballets. So those are 19th century, they're romantic. This is more modern, but Prokofiev's modern ballet scores are, to the modern audience that's listening to them, they're very romantic in their sensibility. They're not kind of harsh and dissonant. I think when you're writing for dance, it has to be something that the dancers can dance to.
Right.
Right? So it's going to have melody and rhythm, and of course with Cinderella, and you've got the ball, so you've got waltzes and the different dances that they dance at the ball. So it's great fun.
Yeah. Should we listen to one of the pieces?
Yeah,
over
let's
here?
listen to one. Let's start with the famous waltz. So we'll start with the Cinderella waltz.
Okay, it's Springfield Symphony Orchestra from May 9th and their performance of Cinderella here on Arts News. I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU. That was the Springfield Symphony Orchestra from their May 9th concert, where they performed Cinderella in collaboration with the St. Louis Ballet Company. Here talking more about that performance is musical director and conductor of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, Kyle Wiley-Pickett. So, Kyle, how many dancers were there? Do you know the total?
40 dancers?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the whole company.
So you had the entire orchestra and 40 dancers on stage.
Yeah. Jimmy, like I said, ballet wasn't my thing, right? But I remember, so the first time I did a ballet, 16, 17 years ago, it's been a while, I got hired to do a Nutcracker up in Montana with the Montana Ballet Company.
Were you avoiding ballet?
No, it wasn't specific or anything like that. It's just never my thing.
The offer came through and you said, well, I guess
I just never really done it, never really went to it.
Yeah.
And I showed up for this Nutcracker, and I remember getting there. I got there really early, to set the pit up, make sure I was, feeling comfortable. And the dancers were there. It was like 2 hours before the orchestra was called to do their warm up. And I watched them do their warm up, and their warm up was like the most extreme athletic event I've ever seen in my entire life. And they were, 10 minutes of this and I would have been in a pool on the floor, and I wouldn't have walked for a week. Mm-hmm. And they do this warm up, and then they cool down for a half an hour, and then they dance a whole ballet. These people are some of the most elite athletes I have ever seen in my life. And then, of course, artistically, they're absolutely spectacular with it. And I love to work with the St. Louis Ballet in particular because Gen Horiuchi, their artistic director, is a very special choreographer. He is a musician. He's a trained musician as well as a dancer. And so his choreography is so responsive to the music. I think part of the reason I had mixed feelings about ballet is I would watch and I think they're just doing their fancy spins and things, but it doesn't have anything to do with the music.
Right.
But Gen's choreography is so tied to the music. The music tells you everything you need to know, and then the dancers are reflecting that physically.
So he has a full reign on what dance happens.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was brought to the United States from Japan originally. He was brought by George Balanchine, who was the impresario of New York City Ballet. So he was there for the last couple of years with Balanchine before Balanchine passed, and brought specially to the United States and had a career as a principal dancer, went on, choreographed the opening ceremonies for the Nagano Olympics.
Oh, wow.
In Japan.
Dang.
And
That's a contract.
That's a big deal, right? I mean, talk about, 40 people, that's nothing, right? Cast
Yeah.
of thousands to do this. Danced on Broadway and then came to St. Louis and has really built that company, and just so collaborative and generous, and just a real artist.
How about we listen to another piece and
Yeah.
we'll talk more about this choreography?
Yeah, let's listen to a couple more of the party scene dances.
Yeah, sounds good. You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU as we look back to the May 9th concert of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra performing Cinderella at Hammond's Hall. Here's a couple selections from that night. I'm Jimmy Ray. Welcome to Arts News. You can hear the ballet dancers shuffling across the stage there at the end of that piece. We're looking back at the May 9th concert from the Springfield Symphony Orchestra in collaboration with the St. Louis Ballet Company and their production of Cinderella. I have Kyle Wiley Pickett here, conductor, musical director of the symphony, and this show marks the end of their 91st season. Kyle, how did it go this year? How was the season?
It's been a good year for us here. Basically, record-breaking ticket sales. We're kind of back, from where we were before COVID. We've had several complete sellouts this year, and it's been, the orchestra's playing great. It's been a good year, and I'm excited for next year. And can I tease it?
Yes.
We're in the America 250th year. The way we're going to celebrate is to feature American voices, American composers. You'll see the official announcement soon. It's coming out soon. The composers you'd expect, Gershwin and Bernstein and Copland. Sure. And then African-American composers and women and voices that are equally American voices but have not been heard quite as much.
Interesting. Well, we'll look forward to that announcement and next season. All the information that you need for the Springfield Symphony Orchestra can be found on their website,
springfieldmosymphony.org.
I'm Jimmy Ray. We're here with Kyle Wiley Pickett. It's been a great season of chatting with you so much and learning a lot. So I appreciate you coming in and make the time. I know our listeners do too. And just learning about this type of music, how things work, the artists, the history. It's all just been a real blast. And folks can keep up with the Springfield Symphony Orchestra via their website or the social media. Kyle Wiley Pickett, thank you so much. We'll see you next season.
Thanks, Jimmy.
You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU. I'm your host, Jimmy Ray. And let's hear one more from Cinderella and the Springfield Symphony Orchestra from May 9th. The Ozarks mourn a storyteller, musician, and friend. Here with more, KSMU's Michelle Skaliski.
A longtime KSMU friend and contributor of stories has passed away. The West Plains Daily Quill confirmed Meredith Cisco's death to KSMU. Cisco contributed her insights, wisdom, love of gardening, and storytelling skills to Ozarks Public Radio listeners for many years. Cisco spent 20 years as an investigative and environmental writer for the West Plains Daily Quill. She also was a music consultant and a featured singer in the 2010 award-winning feature film Winter's Bone. In a 2018 These Ozarks Hills, Cisco reflected on the loss of two pillars of the West Plains community and reflected on what their loss meant.
When, like a pillar, someone who has been a community's strength falls, it shakes the integrity of a community and everyone who is a part of it. Like a giant weathered oak that has stood for centuries only to fall suddenly in a storm, we grieve its passing, but more than that, It changes our world, and our borders seem less secure.
There are many in the Ozarks who are feeling that way today about Meredith Sisko. She continued in that same episode to say something that perhaps might comfort those who are now struggling with her death.
As another of those old ones who will, I'm sure, one day pass into memory before I choose to, it's just my turn to suggest amid our grief that so long as we remember them, those who pass are never that far away, perhaps as close as just the other side of a door that we too will enter one day, to become part of that ever-increasing community that still remembers and loves us, who watches over our days, shakes their heads at our choices, and patiently waits just the other side of these Ozark Hills for us someday to come home.
Meredith Sisko was 82 years old.
We will have more on Meredith Sisko in the coming weeks, and condolences to all who knew and loved her. I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News here on KSMU.
My latest sun is sinking fast. My race is nearly run. My strongest trials now are past. My triumph has begun. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. I know I'm near the holy ranks of friends and kindreds dear. I've brushed the dew of Jordan's banks. The crossing must be near. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. I've almost gained my heavenly home. My spirit loudly sings. The holy ones, behold they come. I hear the sound of wings. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. Bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home.
That was Meredith Sisko with Angel Band from the Winter's Bone soundtrack. And we pick back up with our radio drama, The Life and Times of Curtis Lee, from Ozark Anthology Productions. Rick Gibson, creator, songwriter, musician, producer, and story writer, and narrated by Terry Wayne Sanders. Each installment also includes an original. This week, the 7th and final episode entitled Sundown Town Reprise, an audio drama by Ozark Anthology, right here on KSMU Arts News.
This is an American saga, The Life and Times of Curtis Lee. Episode 7. Over the course of the war, Missouri housed approximately 15,000 prisoners of war, spread across several camps. One of the largest of these camps was named Fort Leonard Wood. Transported from St. Louis, the POWs arrived by train, then were placed onto buses for the 20-mile ride to the post. Most were German, a few were Italian, little spoke any English, none wanted to be here. Winter can be harsh in these Ozark Hills. In early '42, a blanket of snow, nearly knee-deep high, lay spread across the ground. Curtis sat looking out his second-floor shop window as the first buses rolled up. He watched as a herd of men stepped off and trudged toward the wire-fenced compound. They were dressed in dark blue denim with the letters PW painted across their backs. He sat for a long while after they had gone, just staring at the human trail left behind in the snow. One week after the POWs arrived, they were to report to their predetermined job assignments. That morning, Curtis stood inside the building doorway waiting. A dark blue wall of men emerged from across the camp as they approached. His pulse was racing, and his mouth was dry. The POWs were escorted past and up the flight of stairs. Curtis closed the door, uttered a short prayer, then followed. The early prisoners still held strong Nazi loyalties. However, they also recognized the reality of their confinement. For the most part, they obeyed and cooperated with Army and civilian workers. The real problem was between the Nazi loyalists and those who were not so loyal. The prisoners had their own battles to settle among themselves. Despite the despair of captivity and the often resentful disposition of these men, Curtis set out to train them. He initially relied on translators, but made it a point to learn the basics of their language. Within the first week, Curtis had memorized all their faces, called them by name, and referred to them as his crew. He set out to earn their trust and respect by giving them trust and respect in return. He was strict, but fair. Rarely was his authority challenged, but when it was, like the old oak tree, Curtis stood his ground. He spent many hours with his men, teaching the intricate techniques of leatherworking and stitching, just as he had learned from his father and grandfather before. Then 5 nights a week, after each workday, Curtis was charged with watching over his crew in their secure compound. This is where his eyes were opened and his heart began to ache. As he sat each night, viewing the men through the guardroom window, they were no longer fearful prisoners. They had transformed into young boys writing letters to their mothers and girlfriends, and frightened men worried about their wives and families. Curtis could see the agony and fear in their faces. Curtis attempted daily to lift the spirits of his crew by rewarding their craftsmanship and speaking with constant optimism, all the while hiding his feelings of empathy for their plight. Curtis Lee's burden grew even heavier when he was asked to escort a few of his crew over to Building 2101 for a special assignment. When they arrived, he was taken aback to see the building was a segregated black officers' club. The irony was obvious to Curtis, as he was literally facing a physical manifestation of inequality as his captive Nazi crew slaved over segregated ground. This place instantly summoned up difficult memories from the turmoil he left behind in Orrin. Later, as Curtis led his crew away, he took one last glance at the mural they just hung over the fireplace. Somehow, that serene picnic image provided some much-needed solace. Wartime in the Ozarks had become conflicted for Curtis. Here he was, afforded the comforts of a good life, in a safe community, free to partake in the idyllic beauty of the Ozarks. All the while, each workday he was surrounded by despair and injustice. For Curtis, this was a tale of two cities. A far cry from the prison compound, yet only a few miles away, the little Ozark hamlet was alive and well. Despite the ever-present reminders of the World War, the town's happy, turbulent growth remained on full display. Cora and the girls were doing quite well amidst the carnival-like atmosphere. Cora was watching over the girls' schooling and outside activities while keeping pace with the home front demands. Her own personal passage had bestowed upon her a certain wisdom which other ladies recognized and gravitated to. She was always willing to spend time with those in need of support. It reminded her of past times with her family. To ease her own mind, she would pull out her guitar late at night while waiting for Curtis to come home. Shirley and Nell were 10 years apart, but they couldn't have been closer friends. Nell took great care to spend time with her sister in addition to doing house chores together. The sisters shared a room, and some weekends they would spend hours singing and dancing to music on the radio. Shirley Marie was getting special attention in school. It seemed she was particularly good at drawing pictures, always painting or sketching or making crafts. She was developing into quite the folk artist. Nell, a typical teenager, was enjoying her social life. In her senior year, she was passed a note asking her to go for a soda after school. She had no clue this endearing act would be the beginning of her own life journey. Teenagers living through wartime had to live in the moment. On any given day, lives were turned upside down with a draft notice or a telegram. Nell had that soda after school and fell for the shy, blue-eyed local boy she had adored in study hall. 6 months later, she was waving goodbye, wearing his engagement ring, as the bus took him off to war. Outside the walls of the prison camp, folks were going about their lives unmindful. The pretense of insulation from the upheaval of war was in hindsight a shelter. When Curtis retreated from his daily confinement duties, he could always look to his girls for comfort and joy. By 1945, the war had turned, and many prisoners were no longer faithful to the Reich. In fact, some weren't sure they even wanted to return to their homeland. Curtis had been a long-standing witness to the humanity of these captive souls. He no longer saw them as the enemy. Throughout the years, these confined men had been eager to learn their jobs, as the work provided a mental escape from their imprisonment. One such young prisoner was Carl Frederick Wolf. Private Wolf was a slightly built young man, always wearing a grin, and like Curtis, was raised a farm boy. Curtis felt compassion for Carl, and they became friendly. The two forged a mentor-apprentice relationship. Carl took to leather repair like a bird to the air, and Curtis was proud of his protege. Beyond work hours, in the quiet of the prison compound, Curtis shared reflections of his journey with Carl. The youngster sat eyes wide open in the shadow of the guardroom light and delighted in Curtis's frontier elegy. Unbeknownst to Curtis, Carl had twice been quick to rise up against and halt fellow prisoners who thought to act out against the guards and Curtis. So it was, the hand of fate had brought them together. Two farm boys, two generations, a world apart, tied together by the course of history. Nearly 5 years had passed. The war was ending. There wasn't a day gone by where Curtis didn't stop to contemplate his surroundings and how far it was from where he had come. This was the day he would say goodbye to his young apprentice friend. At the close of the workday, a small group of departing prisoners lined up, bags packed, waiting to depart. Curtis walked up to Carl and shook his hand, wished him Godspeed, and handed him one of his signature cigars and pack of juicy fruit gum. Private Wolf was wearing his trademark grin as he stood face to face with Curtis. Carl took a breath and handed him a gift. It was a wooden carving of a handsome Indian brave which he had meticulously crafted. Carl had been inspired by Curtis's story of the old Indian bones. In that moment, the two men stood respectfully silent, clutching their gifts. The day had come and gone. So had their journey. With triumphant national fanfare and personal relief, the war was finally over. It was 1946, and the post was being deactivated. This hamlet, in the Ozarks nestled along the main street of America, was left forever changed. The streets were bare, as stores were closing. Many families were leaving, while some were welcoming back local sons from war. One such young soldier returned as promised. He stepped off the bus wearing 5 Army campaign ribbons. He and Nell were married 2 weeks later. She and her blue-eyed local boy were now off on a journey all their own. Curtis and Cora had also changed. The naive innocence of their rural upbringing was replaced with a maze of new life experiences. Although their roots run deep, they knew home would not be the same. Their eyes had been opened to the unpleasant reality of the times. Curtis and Cora were now facing a future filled with uncertainty. Come July, they were packed and set to return to Orrin. Curtis was determined to open his shop and pick up where they left off. They said farewell to their many friends and neighbors, then spent the evening with Nell. It was bittersweet as they were leaving Nell behind in the trusty hands of her young husband. At last, the trio set out on their journey, crisscrossing the back roads south to the Swamp East. They rolled down the car windows, Curtis lit his cigar, and they passed the time singing old gospel songs along the way. By the time they entered Scott County, the thick summer heat flooded the air, and the singing stopped. The only sound heard was wind howling through the open windows. Curtis gripped the wheel, looked ahead, wondering what was waiting for them in Orrin.
I'm Jimmy Ray. You're listening to Arts News, and that was the life and times of Curtis Lee, the 7th and final episode of an audio drama from Ozark Anthology and creator, musician, storyteller, producer Rick Gibson. And great narration work by the one and only Terry Wayne Sanders. You can learn more about this work and other works coming up from Rick Gibson at ozarkanthology.com. That's all the time we have for Arts News this week, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today and every Friday, 10 a.m. for Arts News here on our public radio station in the Ozarks. It's KSMU. Peace.
It's Arts News, people and places, things to do. Arts News, here on KSMU. Hey!